Quentin Tarantino. You might know him from this, or for this. And definitely for this.
Make westerns at the ranch back in the old-timey days.
Tarantino's a guy that went from a video store clerk by the beach to a king of Hollywood, with 2 Oscars and many other awards. But that hasn't come without controversy.
I'm shutting your butt down.
I mean, a lot of the critics that like me didn't like Hateful Eight. It all came down to the fact that it was just too rough a vision. It was just too cynical. It was too cruel.
After making 10 films over multiple decades, has Tarantino become a prisoner of his own style? Has he become overrated?
Gentlemen, you have my curiosity, but now you have my attention.
Whether you're a fan or not, Tarantino's impact on the film industry is undeniable. He's known for his witty writing.
And you know what they call a quarter pounder with cheese in Paris?
His non-linear narratives, his use of popular film tropes, like a classic Western standoff, and of course, his use of extreme violence. He's also known for referencing other films in his work. Take Django Unchained as an example. It is a story of a freed black slave turned bounty hunter.
I'm a bounty hunter.
Who sets out on a quest to rescue his wife from a plantation owner in Mississippi. But it's also a tribute to the Italian spaghetti western movies of the 1960s. And, most of all, it's a reference to an Italian movie that's also called, well, Django. It came out in 1966 and was made by director Sergio Corbucci. These distinct qualities are what launched him into fame and gained him popularity, especially in the film community.
I watched that movie. I was awed by it.
But this pattern is also what makes him overrated. Let's start with what Tarantino is probably best known for: the excessive use of violence. Violence is a powerful tool in filmmaking to elicit emotion from a viewer. In Tarantino's own view, it's a necessary part of film.
I'm a big fan of action and violence in cinema. I always said that it was almost as if it was one of the reasons Thomas Edison invented the camera, was to film violence.
When we see a human on screen get shot, stabbed, or even scalped, so you would think the violence in Tarantino films has a huge impact on the viewer. And in the beginning, when it was fresh and new, it did. But here's the problem. We're now desensitized to excessive violence. It feels like an obligation to Tarantino's style, instead of a helpful tool to push the plot forward. Like in this moment in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. At a certain point, the violence feels like overkill. No pun intended. I mean, he even brings a flamethrower into it.
It's so much fun, Chan! Get it!
But it felt predictable. It seems like Tarantino knows people expect the violence, so he feels like he has to give it to them every time. Even when it doesn't make sense. Because without plenty of blood and gore, would it even be a Tarantino movie?
Positive.
Now let's take a look at the way Tarantino actually pushes the plot forward, with his distinctive writing style.
Why do we feel it's necessary to yak about bullshit in order to be comfortable?
I don't know. That's a good question.
His clever writing is a lot of what sets him apart. After all, he won 2 Oscars for his screenplays. His scripts have elements of subtext and wit that create suspense and tension through dialogue. Tarantino would have a group of people in a room, give them each a secret, and make them all want to kill each other. But not before first discovering each other's secrets. We see this in the opening scene of Inglorious Basterds, when a Nazi officer is interrogating a farmer.
Charlotte, tu veux bien aller descendre dehors? Le colonel et moi, on a 2-3 mots à se dire.
The conversation all takes place at the kitchen table, over the Jews hiding under the floorboards. The entire situation is calm. The Nazi officer is polite. Too polite.
Oh, please, Monsieur Lapetit, this is your house. Make yourself comfortable.
This builds tension in a way that no loud interrogation could. And it makes us despise the Nazis even more when he knows the truth.
You're sheltering enemies of the state, are you not?
And then, this happens. The same happens here in Pulp Fiction, when Jules recites a lengthy passage.
My name is the Lord, when I lay my vengeance upon thee.
This builds suspense before he inevitably shoots the man he's addressing. And then we wonder, will he or won't he kill the other guys in the room?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
But not all of Tarantino's clever writing is quite as effective.
Yeah, it's about right.
Like in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, when Cliff Booth, played by Brad Pitt, wants to check on his old friend, George.
Hey, does George Spahn still own this ranch?
Yeah, George still owns it.
He doesn't believe that the hippies are caring for George like they say.
Oh, we take care of George. We love George.
So we get lines like this.
Why is that impossible?
Because me and George like to watch TV on Sunday night, FBI and Bonanza, but George finds it hard to keep awake that late, so I make him take a nap around now so I don't get chipped out of my George TV time.
There is an ominous, suspenseful buildup,
Maybe tired.
for no reason at all. It all leads to a conversation with a very old and cranky, but alive, George.
Hi, George.
George is a reference to a real person, George Spahn, who allowed the Manson family to stay at his ranch.
So you gave all these hippies permission to be here?
But even with this information, the long buildup just to briefly meet a minor character feels unnecessary.
What the f*** is the matter with you?
Unlike the opening buildup of Inglorious Basterds, when we come to realize that the farmer is indeed hiding Jews, the suspense at the hippie commune fizzles out into nothing, which leaves us asking, what was the point of all this buildup? This brings us to another element of Tarantino's style, how he writes his characters. Tarantino's pattern has a long history of characters written to have no development or character arc.
Come on now, shit.
If you look at Lieutenant Aldo Raine in Inglorious Basterds, we meet him as a Nazi-hating, fearless soldier who wants to kill Nazis.
Each and every man under my command owes me 100 Nazi scalps. And I want my scalps.
And he ends the movie as a Nazi-hating, fearless soldier who wants to kill Nazis.
We don't give about him.
There aren't any major character arcs. Lieutenant Aldo Raine is still the same character he was before, but it doesn't matter, because that's not the focus. Tarantino prefers to focus on external conflicts, like wars or murders, rather than internal conflicts that force our characters to change. That's why we see witty dialogue.
Dick, 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 dick. How many dicks is that? A lot.
And gunfights designed to entertain. Is this a problem? Well, no. At least not always. There's still a goal: to kill Nazis and win the war. Obstacles, well, the Nazis around every corner, and the changes is in the world around them, ending the war.
I'm officially surrendering myself over to you.
It's just not a change in the characters.
Scalp Herman.
And of course, Tarantino delivers satisfying scenes like shooting Hitler. But that means Tarantino runs the risk of his characters being emotionally unrelatable. They are less like characters who have flaws and struggles, and instead, more like symbols or ideas, like Lieutenant Aldo Raine being a symbol for the hatred of Nazis.
As a bushwhacking guerrilla army, we're going to be doing one thing and one thing only: killing Nazis.
So we don't see the vulnerability of Raine. He doesn't express much emotion at all, except his joy of killing Nazis. In Django Unchained, Django is a symbol for the hatred of slavery and oppression. Again, we don't see the vulnerable emotions, just his hatred and drive for revenge.
I like the way you die, boy.
We might not be able to relate to scalping Nazis or shooting slave owners, but we can all relate to a revenge plot. A sense of victory when we see Raine and Django walk away having changed the world around them. But back to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. We see actor Rick Dalton and his stuntman Cliff Booth live through a series of absurd scenarios in 1969 Hollywood, from starring in a Western to encountering a hippie commune. They don't change throughout the movie, but in this film, the characters don't stand for any good idea or sentiment either. Rick is a washed-up Hollywood actor through and through, and Cliff is a stuntman heading out of the spotlight with him, and they end up killing home invaders. But that doesn't mean it wasn't an entertaining ride with great visuals. After all, we get to see Leonardo DiCaprio doing this. And Brad Pitt just cruising around a nostalgic LA. But if you think about it, what has happened by the time the credits roll in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? Well, nothing beyond a strange series of events. We've encountered bloody fights and wordy conversations, but there's no progression at all.
What are you talking about?
In the end, it follows the same pattern as any other Tarantino movie, but maybe something all we need is this: to be visually entertained and see odd characters interact. From Tarantino's view, his pattern is crucial to how he connects with the audience.
I feel like I'm the orchestra conductor, and the audience's reaction are my orchestra.
Tarantino says he will make one more movie. So, will Tarantino break the mold for his final film? Will he take some new risks and give us something different? Or will we get the same pattern as usual?